doesn't have
I
to
don't.
be UFOs. It could just be unidentified
No, no,
objects, or it
that's
could be secret projects. It could be
no. I
whatever
mean,
we
we could
want
be
it to
like,
be.
what else? What else in 2023 should be common knowledge? You know, like UFOs are common knowledge now. It should be like there's no questioning it. We have the Pentagon. You know, we have the Pentagon now. It's 2023. Um, certain things should be apparent. Certain things should be common knowledge where people should just have to accept it and understand that this is real, whether they want to believe it or not.
Hmm.
Um, UFOs are a thing. It's real. Either is it aliens or extraterrestrials flying these things? We don't know. But we have confirmation from people who have no reason to lie, higher authorities that outrank most of us here, captains, the Pentagon, Navy pilots.
But before you even go into that, like the authority figures presenting information or data that supports the existence of UFOs, before I even go that far, I like when you consider the vast size of the universe that we understand, and the amount of galaxies and the amount of stars in the galaxy and the amount of solar systems in a within a sorry, you have the universe and you have the galaxies and then you have the systems and then you have the stars in the system, and when you think about
It,
all that, it's difficult for me to say, um, yeah, there's no other form of life anywhere, you know.
it's I think it's at this point it's naive to think that exactly what you just said. Like it's such a huge universe. How can we be the only life? It, from a even from like a spiritual standpoint and how God only made us, the Catholic Church, God only made us, His image. Everything else is the heavens and around us. It's all our back playing field to explore. Is complete bullshit. It's complete. It's I can't live like that.
It's a fairy tale.
And it's like it's too vast of space,
Yeah.
and we can't be the only ones. Like, and it's not blasphemous, I don't think, to talk about it that way, but it's more spiritual to understand that there's no way that like we were the only ones created for that purpose. And without getting too deep, philosophically into it, or we're not like just scientifically what are the odds that we're the only people here? Come on.
Exactly.
How much
It's to me.
how much life
It's
is just on this planet alone? And just because, I had that one thing, they're like, oh yeah, but life is so far, they could never come here. This is some arguments I was getting at one point around just the discussion table that it's impossible that aliens exist. How would they get here? They're so far away. How would they get here? And it's like you think you are so egotistical to this one individual I remember, and I'm just like, how can we think like that? That's just pure ego thinking, well, if we can't do it, nobody can do it because we're up
exactly.
here. And I'm like, that's like you really can't think out of the box. And some people really can't think out of the box. And it's like just to entertain the idea, and then I have other people, other acquaintances, whatever, who say like, oh, it's possible, but I just, until I see the proof, everything for me is just hearsay. And
Hmm.
it's like, okay, I guess that's fair enough. You just don't want to spend any much time because you're worried of what people will think about you. Again, that's ego. There should be nothing wrong with talking about aliens and extraterrestrials or UFOs. Like, let's talk about the basics, just UFOs. Sasquatch, I can understand,
Yeah.
but that's also a real science. That's like there's some crazy ass footprints that people have taken. There's a lot of videos that are, like even for me, I'm like, okay, this is okay, garbage.
Yeah.
But like, there's a lot of people that study that stuff, and it's like it opens up a whole new world of like where we come from and who's actually living on this planet, right? We don't even know what the oceans are bringing.
No, um, on our own planet, just us, we've only explored a fraction of the portion of the ocean. You know, isn't that correct?
Yeah.
And we're finding new shit all the time, and like you're seeing all these videos of people finding new creatures and whatnot. Now, to be fair, quite often they find a rare creature that's already been discovered, and they'll highlight it. But a lot of times, like for some reason, it happens quite often in Japan, where they're like, "What is this?" And we're like, "We have no idea." So it's like they just like hanging around there. Um, and I don't know if we explored the deepest part of the ocean that we know of. Is that the Mariana Trench or something? Or
Yeah,
and
Mariana's Trench. No, Mariana's Trench is the longest. I think. I don't know if it's the deepest, but I know it's the longest.
oh, okay.
Maybe I could be wrong.
I just
That's a
want.
good band though, Mariana's Trench. I like that band.
Mhm. Yeah, according to the Ocean Services government, it says that we've explored less than 10% of our ocean on the planet.
That's insane.
Less than 10%.
Or we've almost completely destroyed all of it.
Yeah, we massacred the shit out of it. There's like these piles of these, what do they call them, islands of garbage or something that are just
Yeah,
floating out there. Oh, that's nuts, man. It's crazy.
yeah.
Like where the currents meet or something. They all collect each other at the same area. So just like to me, the fact that we've only explored 10% of our ocean, it's like you said, it's very egotistical of us to think that we've explored space more than we explored our own planet, and we've proven that there's nothing out there, or there's nothing out there just because we haven't seen it. It reminds me of that scene from the movie The Santa Claus, with Tim Allen, when
Yeah.
he looks at his stepson and he's like, "Well, I've never." Sorry, the stepson is looking at his stepfather. And he's like, "Well, you never seen $1 million. Does that mean it doesn't exist?" You know what I mean? It's like it's
Yeah.
it's a very simple analogy, but just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Um, so I find it
Well, then, yeah,
strange.
but then again, you have the same people who were, going back to our previous conversation, the same people who, don't want to see anything, and Hollywood's really good at making sure that anything that seems out of the ordinary, out of the box, is like, oh, you watch too many movies, you read too many books,
Mm-hmm.
because that only happens in Hollywood. Alien
Mm-hmm.
attacks and stuff like that. That's a Hollywood thing, and Hollywood is another smokescreen for us to be like, oh, it's Hollywood, so it's fake. George Lucas, Star Wars, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far
Mm-hmm.
away. Okay, yeah, a long time ago, but it's very possible that that happened. That's how we can believe that it happened. But Star Wars and Star Trek more is more realistic to what's happening now, as I understand it. I mean, this could be absolutely wrong. Federation of planets and stuff like that. There are rules out there,
Mm-hmm.
but that's diving a little deep. I mean, the whole point of regressing to what I started with. And I apologize because I like to my brain just goes everywhere.
Oh, it's fun.
Um, it's fun, but sometimes I can't even keep up with myself. But it, you know, uh, aliens and UFOs, one and the same, maybe. Have we been to the moon? Maybe. I keep having this conversation with friends. Flat Earth? Maybe. But to
Oh,
what end?
you're with Flat Earth, or
No,
maybe
no.
not even.
I'm entertaining. I'm flirting with the theory. There's still no proof. Every once in a while they'll come. Now the new thing is there's this rock that has a hole and the planet never moves from that hole. So how can it be that we're rotating and we can always see the planet from that hole? Well, the truth is that planet actually moves from that hole. And the pyramids in Egypt, Pyramid Giza, and the three of them that are all lined up, which are not the only pyramids in the world. There are thousands of pyramids that people don't know about. They don't realize that there are. But
I
those three
think Egypt.
pyramids line up. The three pyramid, the Pyramid of Giza, and the one, those three line up with the Orion's Belt. That's a pretty known fact that isn't taught. Like you wouldn't think that that's the first thing you should know about the pyramids.
Mm,
Pyramids were built billions of years ago by the slaves. Okay, by the way, they mathematically line up with three stars that we see all the time in Orion's Belt. That's I don't think those were built by the slaves. Like
no,
that's
nobody.
that's like I don't know.
But Orion's belt is visible, right? Like we can see it. So
Yep.
is it not possible that we used Orion's belt as a measuring stick to build the pyramids to know where to position them?
That's some pretty good fucking precision.
Oh no, yeah, I agree. I agree, but I don't think it's impossible, right?
I mean, it clearly wasn't because they did it. I don't think that's a coincidence.
Oh, oops, sorry.
I don't think it was a coincidence that the pyramids line up with Orion's belt, and it's like, so you're trying to tell me flat Earth, or anyways, that's the new one now, and it's like, okay, but there's also another theory, another mathematical equation that says if you take um an obelisk, which is like I guess like whatever those tall
A
statues
tall,
there, they have,
yeah, tower or
yeah, tower, obelisk, whatever, and it's somewhere on the Earth. right? And you have an obelisk here, and then you have an obelisk here, right? If it was truly flat, you'd have the same shadow, right? The length of the shadow would be the same.
Oh
This is
yeah.
scribble, it's whatever. I'm just took a piece of paper that was in front of me. It would be the same, but because we're curved, right? An obelisk that is here that's so tall, an obelisk that's here that's so tall, and here that's so tall, will have three different shadows at the same moment.
Hmm.
If at the same, if those three places had the same shadow at the same time, anyways, and this is somebody old, like this is an old, like, on TV, BBC, whatever. It's this guy's explaining it. I never thought about it that way because I was trying to prove to some people to be like, okay, I don't have like the math in front of me, and people are like, oh yeah, but the Earth curves so much, and it's like just Google it. Like I don't know, like
Hmm.
do that basic research of just looking up and giving false information. So like, yeah, but then that's wrong. So it's like, okay, well, so you're saying we know that Google will only show you what they want us to show and whatever, but at the same time, like there's some information there that's kind of like, I don't know, the Earth has to be. It's not. We're not a ball, eh? We're not a perfect ball. We're a sphere. We're an oval, or
Yeah.
apparently so. We're an oval. So yeah, there's going to be shorter lengths from certain places, and when you look at the Earth, it's not a perfect round. Oh well, if we were truly, and that's the thing that I don't understand. I'm like, if we were truly flat, and you went to the top of a freaking building, you could see. I wouldn't you be able to see a lot further? Don't you see the curvature of the Earth because it actually goes around eventually, so you cannot see from where you are on the top of the Empire State Building.
Hmm.
Wouldn't you be able to just to fucking go? You
You
go to
you
the
you
topest building in the world, you still cannot see, you know, halfway across the world because we are curving. You end
yeah.
up seeing ocean, or like. So I don't understand. Like on the like I don't know. It kind of like there's so much contradicting. I mean, like now they're pushing, but we're in a dome, and then the ice, and that's why we haven't been able to go around. Look at the original maps of the world, and I'm like, okay, the original maps of the world, but these people weren't drawing maps in a globe and saying turn it around. They weren't making globes. They were drawing maps on the floor to be like, well, this is what it looks like if you fucking open it up and you look down on it. Because
Exactly.
when people were mapping, they didn't realize that they all thought we were flat anyway. So if your original idea is that we're flat and you're drawing a map of the world and this is where everything lines up and look at how we really are, it's like, well, no. If you think that we're flat and you take a sailboat and you go and you're calculating knots and stars and you calculate it that way and say, okay, well, here's no map is perfect. It's impossible.
Hmm.
Now we have GPS, so we know more or less, and we've gotten a lot better.
And not to
But
mention, like, you have everyday people that go out and get their license, their pilot license, or their helicopter license, and all that kind of stuff, and they'll take off in a Cessna. They'll fly out there, and they're not like they have to understand how the curvature of the Earth works when they're flying their planes. You understand
well,
that?
that's it. And they're complaining like, well, if you I was in a plane and we were actually flat, look at this instrument. It's not moving. If it was true, it would be like revolving because as we're turning the altitude, I'm like, but there's this thing called gravity, and it's like, is gravity wrong? And at the same time, those instruments are pointing down to the earth, and so it's the altitude relative to the land where you're at. So I
Hmm.
mean, if the ground starts lifting up because you're getting closer to a mountain, well, technically your altitude will drop because the instrument is reading. Like I mean, like, don't quote me 100%, but how I understand that, I have friends who are pilots and just reading online and playing like pilot games and stuff. If the elevation called, goes above sea level and there's ground, well, your plane is technically going lower and you're not correcting for the altitude. So if you
Whatever
want to
whatever
fly,
obstacle is showing up, yeah.
well, that's it. So if you're flying at 4,000 feet and you fly into an area where the ground starts rising, well, theoretically, the altitude should lower because the sensor is telling you, well, your altitude is relative to where you are.
Hmm.
So I don't know, like these arguments to me are like, well, did you not do your research first? Like, are you hearing yourself? Like, you try
That's
to
it.
beat the math. Like, if you're gonna prove to me that the Earth is flat, go ahead. I'm all ears. I want to hear how it is. It's interesting,
Hmm.
but help me understand how you're breaking the math that's already in place.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
that's all I'm saying. Just help me understand how you're breaking the math. Like a hole in a rock that lines up with a planet 24/7 to me is a feat of engineering because that rock happens to be in a spot at the Earth where it's spinning and it's caught a star that's always there. So to me, it's just the way that the Earth is spinning, and I get that part. I get like if we're spinning so fast and blah 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 blah, but it's like everything's relative to how big Earth is, and that's why I think what you should be looking at is how close the moon is to the Earth versus how flat the Earth is, because I think the moon is a lie. That's
The
something else. I think the how far the moon is to us relative is a lie compared to it's a lot closer than we think. And that's what doesn't make sense to me is that we're spinning so fast and blah 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 and the moon has its cycle as well. So anyways, that's it's not important. I could care less if it's. But I mean the moon, we are very dependent on the moon. It's that close that it affects our tides,
yeah.
and it's the only satellite in our solar system that doesn't turn. I find that very interesting. Um, there's also a guy up here, up north, who shoot, what was his name? He has a telescope and a little telescope that's a little stronger than amateur telescopes, like even the professional amateur telescopes,
Hmm.
and he films the moon and there's doors on the moon. There's structures on the moon that this guy films, and we're talking. I don't know if they're UFOs because this is gonna all circle back. I don't know if it's UFOs, but there's these little dots, and he's showing these videos, and these little dots that are kind of like satellites. They look like satellites. They're flying. They're on the surface, or they're flying just above, and the door opens, and they disappear.
What? Hang
And
on.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You got to find this. This is
Yeah,
like
what is this?
when I saw this guy, I'm like, man, this guy ain't gonna live much longer. He's gonna find himself at he's gonna have an accident, poor kid. And he doesn't disclose where he lives, but he lives up north. I don't know. I think it's just a bit further past the Laurentians, and it has to be past the Laurentians because the Laurentians. I mean, even where I live, there's a bit of light pollution, so the skies are never that good. Plus, like, there's the freaking chemtrails, so you can't see fuck all.
Let me
That's
see.
what I wanted to say before. The garbage in the ocean is like the chemtrails of the skies. The garbage in the oceans are the chemtrails.
Oh, I think
Garbage of the ocean is the chemtrail of the oceans of this whatever.
I'm looking at a video right now.
Um,
I'm gonna
Forget
put
his
it up.
name. He's a kin-
Tell me
I'm bad
if
with names. This is how this information it comes in. I kind of see it. Okay, this is cool. This is cool. That guy, but I could care less about these names.
tell me if this looks
It,
familiar. Is this what you were alluding to
show me.
on the streaming?
That's just a video of what's the guy's name?
This is from Video Advice. Let me see.
No, it's oh, is that him?
Whoops.
It's a younger guy. He's got a French Canadian accent. Um, there's so much documentation about structures on the moon. It's kind of ridiculous. I mean, the biggest one, the first one that ever came out was the face on Mars and the pyramid on Mars.
Hmm.
And then they came out with that movie, Mission to Mars.
Mission to Mars.
Yeah, back in the day with
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I remember that.
that was a good movie. People hated the ending, but I thought it was pretty cool.
What is that?
And I was that when they're talking about when they landed, and then they said,
Half transparent pyramid pyramidal
yeah.
object. It was hovering just several meters above the lunar surface and shimmered with all the rainbow colors against the black sky in 1969. Hmm. Yeah, the reason I clicked on this video is because it was showing me like pyramids on the moon and stuff, and there was like a door that opened up or something.
No, but see, okay, look, go back. This is what we were talking about last week. Go
Back,
back to that shot of the lunar module
hmm
and
back
the
again, or
well, I don't know, you missed it. It was like the video of the lunar module from the from the space station. So this is all fake. This them actually walking on the moon.
huh? So you think that this is staged?
There, that like somebody's filming the lunar module landing,
Hmm.
but the lunar module you don't seem to like you think they would show or have a footage of the lunar module take leaving the moon and rejoining with the spaceship or leaving the moon and going back home. How could you have that footage? I get it, two of them are down there. I mean, unless it's trickery again. Like, where's the footage of the module leaving? You had mentioned last time that the module had the engine, and that's what got them back home. But that's not true because technically there was the third guy in the capsule orbiting the moon.
But so you're saying that that module flew back into a ship, and then they brought everything back at once and landed?
I mean, how did they get back from the moon? What's the procedure from the moon? You separate from the rocket, right? You land on the moon,
Hmm.
pick up a moon rock, you film, you bounce around, MTV is created, onto the you get back onto the lunar module, you fly back up, you reconnect back to your whatever, home base or primary rocket, and you break out of orbit and go back home. Where's the video of the lunar module going back into the rocket?
Well, that's the thing. I didn't think it did.
I've never. Well, that's the thing. You didn't think it did, but how did they get back up there? They just like did he throw down a rope? Like, I'll catch you guys on the second pass.
Yeah, let me see
You
here.
know what I mean? Like there was only two of them, or was there three? Like, am I just mistaken? Am I just being an idiot right now at this point? All the comments, idiot. Anyways, this guy, we got to find him. This is stupid. We got to find him. He's here.
The guy with the
He's
moon.
online. Yeah, the moon telescope moon search telescope moon Quebec, and
But it's not gonna be on YouTube, is he?
he has a YouTube channel.
Really?
Yeah, this is old. This is not new. This is a few years old now. And I was like, okay, whatever. Well, I'll have a chance to. And he's just documenting this stuff. Some days there's nothing. Some days,
Bruce sees all.
oh, that seems, yeah, that rings a bell.
Let me see.
Bruce sees all, and this guy was like,
Asteroids fly by the sun.
oh,
How
he sees the sun too. The flares. I was following that for a while. The solar flares.
moon structures.
No,
City structure on the moon exposed and UFO sightings. This UFO video research proves that the government lied to us about the moon landing. Filming of the moon.
moon
Okay.
landing is still a like I have mixed feelings about it. Like from what I understand, there's a lot of people, especially with the flat earth, saying, "Well, no, we can never pass the Orion's belt, or not the Orion's belt, that there's a certain thing we can't pass because of the magnetic structure and blah 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 blah, blah, and we can never get through it." And I'm like, it doesn't matter. We went to the moon. What they showed the American people, what they showed the world, how they got to the moon, I believe was faked because even if there was no conspiracy about it, if you're the president of the United States and you're like, if anything goes wrong, we show the world that we failed, and then we're showing the world like a live murder. You don't want that. So you want a smooth transition. Let's just fake the moon landing, show the people that really go, and then we'll kind of like we'll deal with it later. Because God forbid something terrible happens, then so that I understand. You go see Stanley Kubrick, tell him, listen, your movie, which to this day holds up. That thing looks like an early Apple
An iMac.
yeah, advertisement.
Yeah.
Like every hall, I'm like, what? Like, I'm sure Mac just ripped him off completely because I look at that and I'm like, how did you think about this that long ago? Like Star Wars wasn't even that advanced. Like George Lucas didn't even have it down,
Nope.
and this was like really well done. This is when I watched it, but yeah, maybe if I watch it now, I'll think differently.
Uh,
But I remember watching it like,
I think this is your guy, Bruce sees all, because his videos are labeled Bruce Schwartz Montreal.
there you go. And then so we'll get to him in a second. So I still think that Stanley Kubrick and then his Kubrick, sorry, his wife, I saw her in an interview where she said, well, you know, my husband, this and that. And these men came and they said, well, if you were to design a suit, how would you design it? Blah, 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 blah. And he's like, yeah, put this, put that, make it very American. You want it to look cool, and so these suits were designed for that. And she goes, he was the only one. He wanted a special camera for his movies, and the only one available was on a spy camera, satellite or balloon over Russia. So here you go. You have the government saying, okay, he'll do all this for us, and what he gets in return is that he wants to use this special lens that only the government has because he wants to film a movie with it because he wants that effect of that lens,
Hmm.
that wide angle effect, which I believe was then, which was after Space Odyssey, so it was the sequel too, to that movie.
Hmm.
So there was Space Odyssey, then there was Space Odyssey 2001, correct? Or was it, what was it called?
It was a Space Odyssey to 2001, and then it was
And then
something
the
else.
second one, and then there was something else. So you have that happening, so and that's all documented. So there's no, it's kind of like, oh yeah, connect the dots and use your common sense. Like that's clearly what happened. I mean, his wife's saying it. There's classified documents about them, whatever trade they had, and that's what it is. Nobody wants to know that, and you got to keep that under wraps. You don't want to know that NASA is going to see a filmmaker. That's like the worst publicity ever.
Yeah.
So, but to me, it makes sense. It's like, it's kind of like, well, of course the government did that. Like, they're not going to show bullshit on, God forbid, especially what happened with the first crew that got stuck in the pod and whatever, and they died without even taking off and blah 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 blah. So you really don't want to see that on live TV. And so, faking the moon for sure. Did we really go? Was it really Buzz Aldrin? Maybe not. Maybe they were hired. Maybe they were just hired to do the acting, and they knew it from the beginning. And they would be the frontmen for it. But I think we did go. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of documentation out there, and a lot of interviews saying that we went, we showed up, and I think it was Buzz saying that when we were in the thing, there was a spacecraft following us, and there was two channels. The channel we spoke to ground control, and then the channel we spoke to ground control that wasn't connected to the
CBS
live
or whatever.
CBS and the live broadcast.
Yeah.
And they're saying, okay, well, we've got this freaking thing following us. What do we do? They're like, nothing, just go, and he's not doing anything, so follow. They land. They see a bunch of people on the hill, like that video you were showing. I think was that guy who was actually talking about it,
Hmm.
and yeah, that's what it was. I think it was the guy from Mission Control who was blowing the whistle and showing all this stuff and saying, but he wasn't saying who was in the cockpit at the time in space, but he was saying, and the images they were showing back was it was this hill. They landed on the moon. There's this hill, and there's a bunch of different aliens or other people that they can't see with like, and they're all there. They get approached. They're like, "Hello, what are you doing here? Okay, get out. Like, you're not coming back here." And that's why we never went back to the moon. And like, oh well, there's no reason. What do you mean there's no reason to go back to the moon? You landed, it's good. Well, make a base, do something. Like
No, yeah,
it was a
like
it was a space race. You didn't even put a missile up there, or you did, and you weren't telling people. The whole point was to go to the moon, land, and be like, "We're on the moon first. Plant a flag. No one else can come here." Like, nah, nah, I got it first.
mhm.
And then the space wars were supposed to happen and all that, and that didn't happen. But
But
I mean,
there's something I'm fuzzy on. You're saying like how Buzz Aldrin said they were going to the moon. Something was following them. There was some humanoid
I don't know if
shapes.
it was Buzz Aldrin or if it was that guy that you saw in that video.
Oh, okay. The other.
He was
Okay.
talking as if it was ground control, and it was through the eyes of ground control saying, "This is where we went." But I don't remember who he said was in the cockpit
Hmm.
because Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong, they're all as they're getting older, or maybe they're getting senile, they're denying it. They're saying we never went. You know,
Really?
yeah.
Uh,
When they're talking to those kids, didn't you and I speak about? Oh no, I was talking to my other friend. Kids are going up to him and he's like, class day or whatever,
yeah.
and you see him, and the girl's like, "What was it like going in space?" And he's like, "We never went." He goes, "First of all, we never went."
Hang on. I just want to look that up real quick.
One time, Buzz Aldrin was talking about the aliens, or Neil Armstrong was talking about the aliens. He was on CNN or something, but there was a guy sitting next to him, and they never asked who he was, what's he doing. People who were interviewing him knew who he was there. He was there to make sure that he didn't speak out of line. There was only certain things he was allowed to reveal.
Hmm. Fuck. Yeah.
So
I
did
never
they
remember.
go? And if there is this belt of some sort that we can't, this gravity pull that we can't actually go, then that's fine. That could be totally true. But there's portals, Stargates. That movie Stargate, it's not bullshit. Now I know I'm really like flying off the deep end, but like that's the only explanation of this because why would this person lie? You know what I mean? Like obviously people have every reason to lie, but like that's a big jump for you to go through your to your peers and make conferences and I guess if you want to take advantage of like, tinfoil hat wearing people.
But okay, but wait, before you go any further, why lie about the moon landing then? To say you won the space race? That's it?
Well, that was the whole reason, right?
It was the
They
reason
had
for
to
the space
they
race,
had, they
and
had to beat the Russians into space because Russia was developing a rocket. Okay, well, Americans couldn't be outdefeated. So,
but if it was
uh,
a race, I would assume that Russia and America were neck and neck, right? That's why it was a space
while
race.
Russia was trying, Russia had started. They already had like a year or two in development. So that was and that's something that comes up a lot. They're like, Russia took 2 years to develop some sort of rocket. The Americans figured it out like in less than 6 months. That doesn't make sense. It took
And
years for the NASA program to take off, obviously, and that's why they're calling it a space race to see who could get there first. So when you have all these things going wrong, like the first rocket taking off and the doors being caught and the people dying inside, which could be also lead to another conspiracy if you wanted to look at it to the people who actually died and
hmm,
they were going to expose stuff. But like I don't even want to get into that. Like I read that somewhere and I'm like, okay, whatever, it's enough. Like the government killing people, killing off people for whatever reason. It's for me, it's like okay, that's a Tuesday, you know. Um,
Jesus.
for like the stories you hear and whatever, and people coming forward. But
Hmm.
I want to get into that. Just the space itself. Excuse me. Just getting to space itself. Like they had Apollo 1. They couldn't get. They sent the monkey into space. Okay, great. He came back down. Then you get this rocket. It blows up. Doesn't work. And nothing happens for a while, and then boom, we're ready to go.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, I get it. You're rushing. Like, you know, it's like you get the guy into space, then you have, and then after that, you had like Apollo 13 that obviously didn't work, right? And it's like that movie's about how Apollo 13 made it to space, but there was a malfunction, so they never landed on the moon, so they had to come back. So what was that? Was that hey, let's just show the American people that we're still going to the moon, that it's still possible,
Hmm.
but we're not allowed to land there, so let's make an accident. So, oh, look at that, they figured it out, they came back. Okay, great, you guys are heroes, and NASA was never expecting them to come back. They're just saying, oh, it was a mistake, like it was an accident, sucks, and they were going to use that as an excuse to be like, it's too expensive to space travel at this point, we're not going back,
That,
even
that that
though
that was always the main excuse. Like, it's too expensive and there's nothing to do there. Why would we go back there again? Because apparently 12 men. I'm on the Wikipedia and NASA's website, and they're saying like 12 men are the only men that ever walk um, on the moon, and the last time was in 1972. Um, they were all a part of the Apollo missions, and this was something I actually didn't know. I'm not well versed in this at all. Um, I thought that multiple countries have been to the moon.
just America.
Just America. I didn't. I didn't know that, and I'm wondering why that is. Like when America when it was a space race and America made it to the moon, okay, and they planted their flag and they had the Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong video. Did Russia actually give up and say, okay, fuck it, we're not going to the moon anymore? They just turned around. They gave up.
That's what I find kind of funny. Like they'd be like, okay, I guess they beat us to it, so there's no point of us doing it.
That's
For me, that
strange.
for how I understand it, is that the Russian space program was just a money sink, and it was a secret way to develop weapons instead of actually. It was more like to put nukes and missiles versus actually getting to space.
Okay.
And then
Well, Russia did put the first man in space, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah,
Yeah.
first man to go to space was Russia,
Huh.
and then space station, and then Sputnik, and I
Mhm.
was Sputnik and space station, but so
I
obviously it
had
was
no
like
idea that um, it was only America that ever went to the moon. And I'm curious, is that because they planted their flag on it, like they claim ownership over it or some shit? Or
and this is what backs the theory that they went and they were told to fucking come here, and then obviously they share that with the rest of
Mhm.
the countries maybe to be like, if you guys want to go, this is what we found. It's on you. You would have thought that maybe even another country would have been like, you're making that up so we don't go. What are you hiding on the moon? Or they're like, oh, okay, no problem. Like, there's no point.
Mhm.
Or they just didn't have the funding at the time.
But
Like that's a lot of money. Like that's Freemason type money that's going in there. So they're going to focus on one country. They were focusing on the States. Russia had its own issues, had its own funding. So, I mean, then there was China that had enough money at the time.
Funny enough, like countries like India, China, and all that stuff, they landed crafts on the moon, but the only people that actually put humans on the moon was America. That's something I didn't know. I thought other countries visited the moon.
No.
Huh. It makes sense because I never heard of it, but yeah, that's like you see, that's the kind of shit that when I realize and I hear about it, I'm like, huh, that's So you're saying that the people that lie on TV all the time are the ones that are said the only ones that have been to the moon? It's like,
Yeah, that's it, right? The last video I saw, the last thing I saw, because now on my feed it's all showing like, oh, NASA's fake and this and that, and like they're like floating, and then you see the guy grab in midair, nothing, but you see he grabs his cable to stabilize him, like the Canadians in the air, and look at my hair, look what gravity's doing to my hair, and
oh,
it's
I
like
saw
it's
that video.
so
It
bad.
was like four people sitting down for an interview, and
Yeah,
the chick's hair was like super glued up, and it wasn't moving
exactly. It's
at
like you're
all.
not even trying. Like go on the plane, like how they filmed Apollo 13, drop the plane so you get weightlessness, film, and then go back up. Like, you know, the plane, if it goes like this, you get weightlessness and
Yeah,
you just kind of like, and you can film for a certain period of time, even if that's what they did. I would think that's pretty hard on the body. So, um, like, do that or don't do it. Make the Tell the world that like it's so hard, space is so hard to get a good signal, and make that believable. I don't know. Like, and going back to the flat Earth thing, I've seen Red Bull jumpers. They get that balloon, they go right to the freaking horizon. You
yeah.
see the black, and then they jump in their spacesuits. Like,
Hmm.
okay, if that's, I mean, Red Bull is all fucking bullshit, anyways. But like that's, I guess it would be easy to fake that. But like, I mean, if that's not, what do you call it? Um, like I guess
Camera
I
trickery.
guess it's a fisheye lens, so it looks round, but it's like clearly it's round because of the fisheye lens. I
Yeah.
get it, but it's like, quand même that you're still not seeing the whole world round. Like if you look at something flat and you put a fisheye lens to it, you still see the whole image.
Yeah.
So if the world was flat and you went up with a fisheye lens, you would actually want to go up with a fisheye lens. So it bends everything and it puts everything together. That's what a fisheye lens does. It takes the image, distorts it, and squishes it all together. So don't tell me, oh, but it's a fisheye lens, so it makes it look round, and that's why they use it. But then you would see all the countries connected. Your map would make sense. You'd go to the tallest building, take a fisheye lens, everything gets squeezed together, and then you can actually make a point of like, here's Russia, we go around, go left, okay, China comes back around, here you go, there's the wall of ice, and then you just take a fisheye lens and go around the world and show everybody. Well,
Yeah.
look, you know, and then you can undo the image. But I don't know, all these things are coming to my head. It's like,
Yeah.
well, why don't people do this? Like,
We were talking about missions to the moon and that kind of stuff, and I
yeah,
didn't know this, but like apparently there's 6 countries that are planning to go to the moon very shortly. Japan,
I've been hearing that for like a few years now.
South Korea, Russia, India, the United Arab Emirates, and the United States are all planning to return to the moon. By the end of 2023, they intend to announce their missions to go back to the moon for the first time. Well, America to
Like,
go back, and for the other countries to go for the first time. So it's like we're starting another space race in some sort of
well,
ways.
that falls into the other um, understanding of how I understand it, that there's gonna be a fake a fake space invasion, and we're all gonna think that like aliens are here to hurt us or whatever, and we have to collaborate and blah 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 blah. So I'm not surprised that
Or
other countries
we're going to use the moon as like a forward operating base or something to defend ourselves.
we can't. The moon is not ours. The moon was put there, I believe, and all those things about the moon being hollow and all the readings they took and how they made like seismographs and it rang like a bell and they had metal like if it was as if it was metal at the bottom, stuff like that. There's only like the dark side of the moon. We have no idea. You can't send the satellite on the other side to just take a picture.
But if you're saying that how whatever it is that you researched, if it rang hollow and that kind of stuff, and there's metal inside, the theory is that it was put there.
theory was that it's put there. If you look at the craters,
Yeah.
some of these craters don't make sense. They're all in the same diameter, like depth.
Okay.
Like the diameters are different, but the depths are the same, which is like statistically impossible.
Hmm.
So if they were getting hit by other things over the years, then yeah, okay, but why are they all the same depth
Because
or relatively close?
and the theory is that it's all at the same depth because at a certain point you're just hitting something solid.
That's what these conspiracy theorists are saying.
Theorists, yeah.
Yeah, coming down and saying, well, look, if you measure all of them, and like this is information that they just don't share publicly, but this is like if you look at it, you
Hmm.
know, and this again, this guy Billy, what's his name from Montreal, Bill
Schwartz.
Schwartz. If you can pull up one of his videos, man.
Hmm.
Uh,
I pulled up one of his videos and it's really good. Like from what I can see, the quality of it. But the problem is, it's if you can't here, I'll put it up right now. If you can't hear what he's saying,
I don't need to hear the vocals. You just have to see one of those little black dots just go around and disappear because there's a few of them.
hmm so I have to go through his
Cool.
library to see his videos.
Okay.
Because the ones that I'm finding are all still images. He doesn't have actual footage of something that I can see so far.
Oh, YouTube might be taking it down though. For me, it was all the videos.
Mm.
You didn't find his YouTube page?
I did. It's up right now.
Oh, I gotta look at that. Oh, there's no live.
Live? What do you mean?
Well, it's like a video. He takes videos of his in his telescope, and then you see the little dots. You
Hang
see
on.
the things flying.
Let me take a look.
It's okay. I mean, it's there. The information's there. People can go check it out. It's crazy structures. That reminds me of this another thing that I had seen. Another, I think it was a documentary so long ago. Excuse me. And they were talking about how they were using the telescope, the Hubble telescope, and this pair of scientists, whatever, they were studying some stars or whatnot, and they were using it, and they were realizing some of the stars were like near Jupiter. I think it was near Saturn or Jupiter, I forget. And they noticed that some of these stars were like they they were like a little close, and they were moving, and they were. Long story short, whatever, to get into it, they were just saying that how there was a structure there, and it was like some sort of portal, because these stars would show up, these like objects would show up, and they were not round like stars. They were emitting light, they were squared off, and they're like, that's not a natural star that we've ever seen. And they're kind of showing up and disappearing, showing up,
Mm.
leaving, coming back in, disappearing. And they're saying like there's a portal here. It's got a black hole, something, whatever. There's some sort of portal here. Something's being done. There's a massive structure or a massive like mothership or type of deal that they can see things going in and out of. And they were using the data back and forth to be like, well, look, at this point in time, it's here because of the light refracting. Then it's gone. Then it comes back, and it's gone. And it's unlike characteristics of stars, because stars just don't disappear and come back. They twinkle because of light information coming. Well, what we see, whatever. But with the Hubble telescope, you can see it for longer.
Yeah.
You can see the wider image and blah 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 blah. Whatever time. So they were studying this one thing because they just noticed. They're like, oh, cool. Okay, they're like, oh, there's a star there. We never noticed. And then they're like, that's not a star. That's square. Like it's got structures and things, and they're trying to like, and the best image they can get, it looks like this fin of something, and it goes in, it goes out, and then like other ones come in and out, and they just disappear. So either they're like what, they're landing on the planet, or they're leaving, and they're like there must be some sort of portal there. Again, that's a far-fetched theory,
Hmm.
but it's like these things are coming, appearing, disappearing, and they're not natural stars or anomalies, and it's like okay, and they're documenting them, but it's a weird documentation because like the star's there, it's not there. So you're trying to figure out a star's trajectory, a star or a planet or blah blah blah, a quasar, whatever. And it's just they're like it's you can't, and it's so freaking close. Like the light reflection, you measure that, they're like it's close. It's not. There was never any star next to Jupiter before. There was never any, unknown planet or
Mm.
whatever. So, oh, is this one of his videos? That's
Yeah. Actually, if I go back a little bit, you'll see
TV.
he highlights this little dot here that moves across.
There you go.
And considering the size
Oh,
of the
sorry.
moon and what that dot is, it's really moving quickly.
Yeah, because the telescope will follow.
Now he put that little twinkle effect there, but yeah.
Yeah. So the telescope will follow the moon. Yeah, there
I
it
mean like what's not to say that that's just a space rock floating in front of the moon, right? Is that not possible?
is. True.
But at the same time, I think it's questions that are interesting to ask.
But then again, you have to like, right, you have to know that how zoomed in you are
Hmm.
versus how close that thing is to the structure, right? Because these guys
Exactly.
they know their thermals, and obviously to me, like I'd have to read the manual to be like, okay, well that color means that, that color means that. So what they're saying at a certain point, like I mean, if this guy's trying to keep up the thing and he's trying to like make bullshit and he's like, and it's just a piece of lint going across his lens, which most videographers probably know that that's impossible for whatever he's doing,
Let me
and
see.
any any amateur astronomer knows that like okay, well this is for real, like, and he's probably one of the only ones actually doing it and actually noticing because he managed to get his hands on a telescope that can actually go that far because you see how distorted the images are, and then on plus you got to turn them into digital, plus you're uploading them to YouTube, so it really sucks. Plus we're watching it on the live stream now,
Yeah,
but then you get that wobble, right, which is normal.
it's a lot of
So
distortion of.
well, that's it. There's the because it's got we got to see it through air, right?
Mhm.
Like we're seeing that through air through our atmosphere and whatnot. So there's obviously that effect. It's like when you're at a shooting range and you're trying to shoot further on a hot day, you're getting that thing screws up your target.
The heat waves
The
are. Yeah.
humidity, right? The heat rising. So kind of that. It's kind of like that effect. But yeah, this guy. I mean, I remember seeing stuff clearer than that. You just see these things whoop across, and anyways, he's got tons and tons of videos. I'm glad you found them. Just proves that I'm not crazy. That I know what I'm doing. That I know what I
He
saw.
does have tons and tons of videos, and his videos have 500,000 views. People are watching it. People are paying attention. I'm sure if I were to listen to it, he would have interesting things to say about what he's observing. Right, like that video of that dot moving across the moon. I'm pretty sure he's explaining whatever math he went through to decide what the size of that thing was and how fast it was going, and
No,
to
I
give us.
just remember seeing that video where it was like the square door. You're like, look at this. He goes, it looks like a garage door. I know, look. Oh, it disappears into the garage door. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Which to me, it's like at this point, it's old news. Like I'm not like trying to, when I was younger, it was hilarious in high school, and I probably realize now how annoying I was to people because I'm just finding all this stuff out, and I'm like, look at this stuff. Like, how are we not learning? This is so cool. It's like, I found the cure for cancer. Like, fucking aliens are real, bro.
Mhm.
And everyone's like, you're mental. Everyone wasn't like really thinking about that. And I guess it's kind of like a nerd life type of deal, like I guess I don't know. You realize later
Well,
on.
to me, it's a question of curiosity because when people automatically dismiss UFOs and they dismiss aliens, crop circles, anything like that, and they squash everything and they just go, "We have the answers. That shit's not real." It's like, is there a possibility that that this is man made and then someone fucking with you or trying to scam you? Yes, honestly, 100% yes. It's definitely a possibility. But I just hate that people kill that curiosity when people stop asking questions. When people just say, "Oh, we have all the answers. We don't know," or sorry, we know it's man-made. It's not real. Or no, that can't be it. That's not true. I just like I like no. Keep your curiosity. Dig a little bit. Look like just
People don't have time, Muslim. We spoke about this. People don't have time. You know, people gotta go to their jobs and pay their bills, and they don't want to think about like. And other people are like so caught up with what other people think to be like, no, 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 no. They would have told us by now. Well, who's they? Who do you think? Do you even know how the government runs?
mm,
Understand how it's a different division for everything.
mm,
Again, Trump made a fucking space force.
yeah.
Space force. So there you go.
And like even with blatant facts, like for instance, the Pentagon releases video of UFO sightings captured by military drone in the Middle East. The Pentagon releases that, you know. It's basically a type of admission that the government is saying, "Hey, we found something and we have no idea what the fuck that is."
The Pentagon releases it, and everyone's like, it's like Pentagon. Now you should be paying attention
Yeah,
because we all believe in the Pentagon, right? The Devil's Star itself, the Pentagon, and it's
the
like,
devil's anus. It's like,
right, like so they're gonna be like, well, whatever, okay, fine, they have to release it because of whatever, and it's like people they'll find any excuse not to believe it, and it's fine. You don't want to believe it, you don't believe it. I don't care, but like
mhm,
it's at this point, this is what I'm talking about. It's 2023. There's certain things that are common knowledge. This
mhm.
is common knowledge right now. This has to be common knowledge because it's the facts that the Pentagon. Because what is this? Global News? What am I saying in that
This is
corner?
global news. Yeah,
Okay, so Global News would probably get their asses sued if they were making up bullshit about the Pentagon. Let's be
absolutely,
real.
absolutely.
So, and it's not just Global News because we're Canadian, so we'll get this, and I'm sure CNN, if you looked it up or whatever, blah blah
Hmm.
blah blah blah, because it made news everywhere. So they have to tell the people this, but they don't have to make it front page. So they slowly have to give us this information, but they're like, we're just going to put it here, and whoever finds it that way. We can say, well, we released it. If ever they're going to make a plan to fake an
Hmm.
alien invasion or an actual alien invasion is actually coming, and they're speaking about it behind the scenes, and they're like, okay, well, we got to start slowly letting people, you know, aware that there are things that are happening, kind of like Armageddon. I was like, oh, are they preparing us for this? Like, are they
Oh,
preparing us for the end of the world because they don't know how they're gonna kill us? So maybe they're gonna say, like, uh,
and I don't know if
God,
you saw this footage because I thought that this press release was for that famous Tic Tac UFO.
no.
But when I saw this footage, it's something else. I This was the footage that the Pentagon released, the Department of Defense. It was that little ball that you saw zoom across the screen there. There you go. That's pretty much it. The rest is just a discussion.
Well, that's it. That's the ball I was telling you about.
Yeah.
That I was explaining. I mean, it wasn't red, but it was like, and now they're talking about it because they're like, "What the hell is this?"
Hmm.
And those people. So to the untrained eye, someone's like, "What is that? It's a drone. It's nothing." Blah, blah, blah. They're making a big deal out of nothing. They can't identify it. But you have people who are constantly looking through these drones day after day who understand how to read infrared,
Hmm.
what the shape is. They can figure it out. Like sonar. They're being okay. It's there. It's here. Okay, because I know. And you're talking, oh, what the hell is this? This is a highly trained someone who's using this instrument, it's like an F1 car racer, a pilot who is in this car saying, and you hear them all the time, guys, I'm feeling something weird about the engine.
Yeah.
As the viewer, you're seeing the car rip around the track going 300 miles an hour, and you're like, "Well, it looks fine to me." No, okay, you probably hit some debris or something. And the guy's like, "No, guys, I can feel the engine. Like that guy's stuck in that engine. He knows his car. He's feeling his car, just like these professionals who are looking through this and doing
But
this doesn't make sense. I'm having a hard time keeping up with it, and I can keep up with missiles. So God knows, yeah, I actually never saw that video. So that was the first time I see that video because I thought it was something else. And just to go back, like that ball reminds me of the picture I saw. We were talking about this before. I don't think we were on the live stream yet. I had someone come up to me and say, "Hey, I took a picture of a UFO,"
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I was like, "Okay, sure. Let me see this picture." And I'm just like, that just looks like someone lost their balloon. It looks like it's just like a red balloon. And I'd never seen a red UFO on anything before, on any picture. And then I zoom in and it looked like it had this fin. Yeah, like okay, it's hard to zoom in on that, but like obviously this is black and white. If the video says that it was red in color, which made me think of something else about the New York sightings. That was something that happened. You look up UFO sightings in New York, red lights over New York City, where they all start showing up and blah blah blah. Anyways,
Yeah.
I digress. So my friend sends me this picture. I'm looking at it on her phone, and I'm like, it's just a balloon, like a balloon over houses. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of got a weird shape to it, but like it's round. But she's like, no, look, like zoom in. And I'm like, yeah, it's true. It's a pretty big balloon compared to the size of the house. I zoom in, and it's got this line. The only way I can describe down the back of it, a little, but perfect, and it looks like the back of the Millennium Falcon, not the physical of it, but like the light emitting. When the engines go and it takes off,
Yeah.
it looks exactly like that white. So she sends me the picture, but my zoom at the time, iPhone, Android didn't work. I think it was not even on a BlueBerry, BlackBerry, and BlueBerry. I'm so tired. And I just couldn't like the picture just didn't make any sense. It looked like a smudge. Like I was like, this is whatever. It was on an old phone. I never kept it. but that's what that looked like. That ball looked like, and that's the closest I've ever been to like actually seeing a UFO.
Hmm.
I saw two satellites once. One satellite stop. I was in the street with my buddy, and I'm like, "Oh, cool satellite!" And there was another satellite coming, and they were crossing paths, and I figured they would just cross, but one actually stopped, and the other one went by, and then the satellite continued. And my buddy and I were
What?
looking at each other, and we're like, "Did we just see that happen?" Like, satellites don't do that. It was clearly a satellite because it was a star moving. It wasn't a shooting star or anything. It was like
Yeah.
you see satellites all the time. It's not a people oh alien. No, it's just a satellite. And that was the weirdest thing. That was actually the weirdest thing that ever happened to me. I'm thinking about it now, that I saw those two satellites. One actually stopped, and the other one went,
Hmm.
and then it continued. And I'm like, satellites don't do that. Like satellites don't stop. Like, to my knowledge, maybe they do. Who knows?
No, like there's not a fucking intergalactic highway out there where they have to let each other pass.
Well, that's it.
It's
They're all
like,
on different. They're all
yeah.
on different like angles. Like it's.
Like, why wouldn't you just veer off course and then go back onto your route and instead of
Well,
stopping?
that's it. I mean, maybe there was a weird cloud or something that gave it the illusion that it stopped
Hmm.
and it went. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was the 10 pounds of weed that I had just smoked. Who knows?
But you see, like for instance, like a press release comes out, Pentagon releases a video of an unknown man, unknown drone or whatever, unknown flying vehicle, and like you said, some people just dismiss it and say, "Oh, it's just this, it's just that, or it's just a drone or whatever." And I'm like, you need to understand that the people that are, like you said, the people that are reviewing this are professionals. Like their job is to look at this, and their job is to track any flying objects, balloons, drones, missiles, anything, And if let's say this is a drone, okay, some country developed some tech, it's like you should be just as scared. You should be just as concerned. Not scared, but you should be just as curious or concerned. To say like, okay, well somebody developed a drone that flew across our country that we couldn't identify, that didn't pop up on radar, that's silent as fuck. Like these are all questions that should be sounding off, and instead of
Yeah,
saying, "Oh, it's just a drone."
and the only balloon and the only president with the cojones, big enough to actually shoot down one of these balloons is Biden, who when they shut down that Chinese spy balloon,
Yeah.
he's like, I didn't even bother looking into it because I'm like, I don't have time for this. Well, what's the chatter about this, and what is there going to be a leak, a wiki leak on that? And then
Hmm.
it's like, why would you advertise that you shot down a Chinese balloon? Like, are you staging it? Like, do you think the American people are that dumb that they believe that the Chinese are still using balloons to spy on us? Like, what did you really
Hmm.
shoot down, and why did you shoot it down? And or
But
was
but
that
but
just
but
fake?
but did China release a statement saying like how, hey, that was an act of aggression, didn't they?
I thought I could care
So,
less. I mean, like,
they may have admitted that yes, that was ours, and you shot it down. Why'd you shoot it down? Um,
but
and
Biden loves China and they're in bed with China, so why would they? Would they want the American people to think that they hate China?
exactly, I think that's what that is. I think that's just it's good fuel for the news for the fear. You know,
Why not? I
China.
remember that was fucking Trump's. I think I saw a video. Someone put all together all the pieces of him saying China, China, China,
Hmm.
China. That was hilarious.
And earlier you mentioned something that interested me is when you said how sorry, how some of the astronauts had seen some shapes and it communicated with them and it said like leave here now.
No, I think they were approached by some beings or whatnot that were there, and they were just like they were told to leave. Like, take your pictures, but see you later.
Now,
Don't come back.
do you think that if we were to come across some type of intelligent life that's out there, that the intelligent life would be able to communicate with us at all?
I don't see why not.
Like, I don't think they're gonna speak English or anything. Um,
Okay, so it, how I understand it and what people have said um, through their interviews and whatnot. Like, I'm not a professional in this. This is just
no,
what I've
we're two guys talking shit right now. That's all we are.
talking to shit, and
Like we
I'm
don't
like,
know. Like
just
none of us have a PhD in anything.
just the stuff that I've the years and the hours wasted and spent on what's true and what's not,
Yeah.
and diving into this stuff when it was more appealing to me when I was younger. There's a guy named Corey Good, and it's, David Wilcock, Okay, he talks a lot about aliens, the forthcoming. He's more of a spiritual guy, like understanding the fourth dimension, explaining how the sun has, excuse me, information that we need. So you really need to take the sun. You really need to ground yourself on this earth. Walk barefoot, hug a tree, like get those electrons that have information that our brain subconsciously needs
Hmm.
to evolve and become better spiritual beings. But that's a discussion for another day. Um, so it was David Wilcock, Corey Good, and Emery Smith. That's it. Emery Smith. I forget. I might be mixing up the two of Emery Smith and Corey Good. I think it was Emery Smith who was an actual. Who was? I don't know if he was part of that MK Ultra stuff, and he was talking about what he was doing, uh, and being a part of a roundtable discussion with certain alien beings, whatever, blah 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 blah. And he explained in a certain way. And if it wasn't him, it was like a segue into certain people talking about there's certain beings that could just understand. You understand them, they understand you. Certain beings spoke a language, you got it. He said there's a thing called with that they had universal translators, just like Star Trek. Those things exist. He said, but instead of putting them like in your ear, you put it in your pocket, and you just like kind of understood what they were talking about.
Okay.
I, I'd have to go back and look at it. I have it like in an email somewhere. I don't care. It's there. Follow Corey Good, Emery Smith, David Wilcock. It's in there somewhere. Like you know, apologies to anybody who's watching and like, oh, you're not prepared, you're full of shit. Maybe, maybe I am, but I'm just saying this is the stuff that these guys were saying. So, are they all on crack and acid? Maybe. But how
Hmm.
he explains it is that extraterrestrials, like, they understand, right? And and we'll understand them when they want us to understand them. That's just, I'm not, you know, I don't think we're there like, hey, can you get me? Like,
Hmm.
they've been here before. They're here now, abducting people. You know, um, crop circles are real, full of information on top of that.
So
Crop
I
circles
was
are
gonna
real.
say, what are crop circles then? Is it information? Is it a message? What like?
I think they're messages. I think they're also points of healing. And I remember a lot of friends, a lot of again, high school days and whatever, people trying to like dismiss crop circles, saying it's just kids fucking around. And I saw the video of how crop circles were made by a bunch of like
Oh,
kids
with the
going.
that string and a plank.
Well, that's it. Like you plank
Yeah.
string and a stick, and you go around. You make perfect circles.
Yeah.
Whatever they could do it, and look at the timing, and they did it in under 3 minutes. And it's like that's not a problem. Anybody can make a crop circle and go in and out, and whatever. But what they're not showing you is that they're like that's one circle, or maybe four or five. I'll give them better for that. Maybe they did 10. Maybe they did 10 circles in 20 in under 5 minutes. Whatever. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Those circles have no meanings. Those circles are broken crops because the only way you can get a crop to fall down is if you break it
Hmm.
because the crop bends. Like those that corn will bend, and as you break it, it'll break and go sideways. So they take the thing, they go and they make that circle around, and all those things are broken now. What they're not telling you is that there are some crop circles that are built on the side of a mountain. You ain't doing that overnight when you got to climb that high for a prank.
Yeah, I
And
remember there were some
some people,
famous crop circles.
and to the point where some of these crop circles are so specific and so mathematically correct with different shades of green or wheat or levels of not just circles, because the circles, if you take the diameter, it's a mathematical equation. Some of them look like a CD with like, I remember one of them looked like a just big disc with little squares inside, and some people are suggesting that it's a CD with information, and if you take the dots and figure it out, like if you burnt the CD that way, it would like play something or do a
Hmm.
message. Other of them are messages. Some of them are calendars. The shapes, some of them are triangles. They're not talking about that. And now they're not even talking about the construction. If you really dive deep into crop circles, the composition of crop circles and the energy that there is. Um, People going there, getting like feeling healed, being less sick, getting parts of their vision back. I'm telling you, man, people they freak out over the energy that is there in a crop circle. And not only that, these crops are not broken, they're bent as
Right.
if they grew that way. Corner. This is real. Like if you look into it, like when this comes out and people are like, and stuff happening over like, there's a security guard or whatever. The farmer was out in his field. He goes back inside, working on something in the farm, in his barn, sorry, and then he goes back outside like, 20 minutes later, and there's this fucking like he didn't hear anybody from in his crop. So all you have to look at all that. You have to dive deep, and you can't just be like, oh, it's just a prank. It's like you just look at it. Why would this farmer destroy his crop for a prank? Or someone would do that to the farmer locally for what, man? These people need to eat. Why would you destroy his crops? Like that's a crime,
And,
like in small.
and they are done with a certain degree of precision. Like it's not willy nilly.
Ridiculous.
Um,
It's ridiculous, some of them, and it's just like, oh, they're just no, they're not just circles. Like, look at them. I think I bought a calendar back in the day of all the different types of crop circles. It was pretty interesting.
and why
Yeah.
crops? Like why don't I see snow circles in the Arctic? Why don't I
Well, no,
see?
and there's a storm, so
Huh?
there probably are. I just never looked into it.
Mm. I
Probably
mean,
are.
because crops are probably the most longest lasting way of seeing it, maybe. But
Yeah, 'cause the crop is gonna grow little by little, and then that bent wheat will.
stay bent.
I'm actually curious to know what they do afterward, if they just let it grow out and they still harvest it.
Mm. That's
You
true.
know, I mean,
That's
they have
very
no
true.
choice. They got to pass the tractor over it eventually to grab that corn or whatever field it is. Like they're not just gonna. So maybe that's their way of saying we don't want to destroy your earth, so we'll just bend your crop, but we didn't actually break anything. You can still crop your crop. Here's just a message. It's not a bad message. It's a good message, I think, because there's like, if people are feeling energized and more energy, and I mean, this is what they're claiming. I've never been to a crop circle sighting or anything, so but people tend to feel that way about Stonehenge, like security guards and whatever. There's a lot of sightings near Stonehenge and crop circles near Stonehenge, and there's a lot of security guards who do the grounds who report a lot of things.
I
You know,
was there a couple of weeks ago. I was
yeah.
at Stonehenge, and
Did,
I
did
saw it.
you camp?
Ah,
Did you camp out? No.
no, we were on the cruise, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's funny enough because like when you get to Stonehenge, you have the visitor center,
Hmm.
and from there you take a bus up to Stonehenge, and it's about a 10-minute ride. But while you're taking the bus, you arrive to like there's a dirt road that's like a 2-minute walk away from Stonehenge, and that dirt road is littered with camper vans and people just camping out right by Stonehenge. And I asked one of the guys out there, like the security guards or whatnot, like, "Hey, what's up? Like, who are these people? Like, why are they parked up here at Stonehenge?" And they go, "These people stay here all year round." And he said it was for the healing energies that they feel around here. And I was like, "You're kidding?" He goes, "Yeah." And then he made fun of them. He was like, "Yeah, they're hippies, you know." And it's like they just hang out here and they claim that
That's
they're
crazy.
that they're
That's
healing
crazy, dude.
themselves. But I'm serious. Like the road from beginning to end was just a bunch of vans and people camping out right by Stonehenge. And the crazy thing about Stonehenge is that when you get to the site and you look at it, it's literally in the middle of it's not nowhere, but it's just like the plain around it is so vast that you can see for miles and miles and miles in every direction. You know?
I bet you those. Someone had a theory that those heads, there's bigger statues underneath.
I think you're confusing Easter Island.
That Easter Island.
Yeah, the heads is Easter Island. Stonehenge is the
Oh, it's Stonehenge. Yeah, 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 yeah. Sorry. This. Yeah. My bad.
yeah.
That like where everyone's trying to figure out like one guy did it in his backyard, like this is how they built them, and just
Hmm.
using a fulcrum and a I remember seeing that, and they were like, some guy was like trying to prove that like man could actually make this, and it's like, okay, cool, you had this piece of wood on this fulcrum machine that you made, this like
Hmm.
kind of like balancer, and you yourself dug a hole and made a perfect precision round. How are you gonna get that on top there, buddy? How are you gonna get the top pieces?
Yeah,
What
but
about what about the fact that those stones are not native? What about that?
yeah, and you're talking about Easter Island or Stonehenge?
Stonehenge at this point.
Yes, and for Stonehenge, there's actually an entire exhibit explaining because there's blue stone and there's like the regular stone that's from around there, and he showed us the route that they had to take to bring the blue stone to Stonehenge, and the method that they had to use to bring it at that time. And my first thought was, no fucking way. Like that'll take centuries, man.
Dude, that's like they're saying that the slaves had bricks. I remember in my history book, the slaves had bricks and logs, and they were pulling them on the bricks and logs, and one guy would pick up the brick and they would bring it there. I mean, I went to a
And they would
Catholic private
and
school.
they would rotate the logs.
Yeah, and then they would climb up, and then I'm
Hmm.
like, yeah, you would need 10,000 slaves, manpower.
Yeah.
At that point, it's like I don't know. Whatever.
But if you're saying like around Stonehenge has a lot of crop circles, which I didn't know. I just thought it was curious when the security guard and the tour people around Stonehenge said how yeah, all these people are here for like its healing energies. And what's messed up is that you have the visitor center where you have to pay your ticket to get in the site. However, if you take that dirt road up here, it's completely free. You take that dirt road and you're allowed to get off and walk up to Stonehenge.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a bit strange how it's designed that way. Like they're not allowed to go up and walk up as close as the people that paid, but they're right there. You know what I mean? And the field around Stonehenge is completely open. So people were just walking out into the middle of nowhere. Like I saw people like like I would see them right in front of me, and Stonehenge is like a big lap. So as I'm
Yeah.
walking around, I come back and I look back to see what those people are, and they're just tiny dots just walking out into this field of nowhere. And I was like, holy shit, man! Like, these people are really soaking up whatever this place is doing for them. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's intense.
And good for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if
And
it's working. I mean,
yeah, and they weren't kidding. Like when I got on the bus and I got back to the center and I asked somebody about the camper people, and I told them like, hey, one of you guys told me that those people are there all year round, winter and everything. And like that can't be. And he goes, no, yeah, they are. It was like some people here stay here for years, and I was like, holy crap, that's nuts. I've never heard of something like
they're
that.
they're drawn, they're drawn to the energy, I guess.
Yeah. Oh man. And the thing about Easter Island, you're absolutely right. Actually, they already excavated a couple of them, and yeah, it's a shit ton deeper than just the heads.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. I'm happy to hear that because there's so many things, especially in Africa, um, just in that continent alone. There's so many, and it's just so sad that the governments are hiding it, or there's war, or whatever. But there's so many civilizations and so many things that they're digging up, and old cities, and just there's so much history there, and like they find these crazy artifacts that just destroy our what we know about the timing of
Yeah.
everything, right? And and the civilizations that were here before. That's what this is proving. And it's like it's proving that those civilizations here before, and man was walking with the dinosaur, and that's a whole other thing. How the dinosaur is a big conspiracy. How it's like it's all bullshit what they're talking about, and and how the first dinosaur was actually fake because they actually looked at the original bones and they're like, this is not real. But anyways, that's another thing to dive. I could care less if the dinosaurs were real or not. Like it's just they're here, they're there, they're everywhere. The chickens I have remind me of dinosaurs every day, so it's fine.
There you go.
Um, and but I mean, it's important because at one point I was just like, oh my god, our history's fucked up, and then I'm like, I don't give a fuck about history. That's just back then, and we have to understand. We have to move forward. We're here, we're here in the present, and that's what it's there. That's
Well,
what it's
we have to
called.
be careful though, because I think we have to learn from history.
Yes, to a certain extent, we have to know what's happening and whatever. It's good, but for me personally, in my life, it's like there's certain things that it's like I can't change any of that, and nor am I going to try to get people to get either you're into this stuff and you get history, or you're not. And we need to understand history because especially our economics and how our money is made, because that would like really wake up a lot of people to like, oh, we're living on a currency that's pretty much monopoly money.
Yep.
But again, that's another. I want to dive into that. I want to talk about UFOs today,
Hmm.
and but for me, it was like, okay, well, whether dinosaurs existed or Stonehenge. So Stonehenge itself, where did it come from? Um, the pyramids built, how they aligned. We were talking about that. Flat Earth, maybe we live in a dome. Could be. Doesn't change anything out of my life. I still got to pay taxes. I still got to get up and go to work. Um, so and it's 2023. The whole point of us talking today is that it's 2023, and there should be things that are just common knowledge. Common knowledge that UFOs exist, and the Pentagon, like we saw, has approved it, has acknowledged it, and that's not the only one. That's not even the article that I remember seeing and reading.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another, it's funny that it's Pentagon slowly feeding us to be like, let's start getting prepared because I think a big disclosure is coming. And Bob Lazar,
Mm-hmm.
let's look up this guy. Look up Bob
Bob
Lazar
Lazar
and everything
is
this guy has to say. And the Netflix documentary kind of turned me off, but like, there's plenty of other documentaries about him. Alien spaceship. He's a scientist, and this is what it is. They call scientists, they call specialists because even the government and their departments don't know what's going on. So like, who do we know that's really good at stuff? Let's call in this. Let's call in this specialist. Hey,
mm-hmm.
Bobby, come over. What do you think of this? And this guy's like, I gotta go talk to the media because you guys have technology here that could like take us out of the dark ages, and you're not sharing it with anybody. This is not fair. This is not cool. And he did an interview in the 1980s, and he did an interview now on Netflix, and it still didn't. But it's common knowledge. Like Bob Lazar is a real guy. Like he's not dead. I don't know why they haven't like how he hasn't had a happy accident or something.
Yeah, but Bob Lazar is a very careful dude, also.
He is very careful, but I mean he's basically telling you that he was test flying a UFO.
Mm-hmm.
He should have been like pulled off the air, and somebody should have committed him by now. What? You flew a UFO? What are you talking about? You work for the government on a secret? That's conspiracy. That's crazy. Off to the crazy house you go. But no, he's still working there, or he did what he had to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's common knowledge. Then we have Lieutenant Furrier,
Yeah.
Captain Furrier, sorry.
Hang on a second. Son of a
Like this guy
bitch.
was on Joe Rogan, man. Like this is a captain
Yeah.
of a jet fighter for the Navy.
David
Like this
Fravor.
guy,
Yeah.
his story was just amazing, and I just love hearing how I love how pilots talk and when military people talk and stuff like that. I find that's interesting itself. I have
Well,
a fascination for
but the thing is that he's so precise with his words, right?
exactly.
And not in like a rehearsed way, but in like a no. This is how we describe these things, and this is what I saw, and this is what the Pentagon released as footage from my craft.
Even to the detail of like how there's that like jokingness around with the other jet fighter pilots, how there's always that jockiness
Yeah.
in his story, and he's like, oh yeah, they were kind of like laughing, and oh, did you manage to catch that thing? And he's about to go on his little run, and he can hear the radio talking, and he's saying, well, how long has this been happening? They're like, oh, 3 months now that they've been getting this sighting. So he's like, okay, let's go if we can't see this thing, and gets called, and they go, and I think it's the team that's before him sees it but can't have a chance to capture it or whatever, and then his co-pilot was smart enough to use like infrared because it was too fast for the regular camera,
Yeah.
so they went for infrared, and that's what he's showing you is the infrared. He goes, because that's the only way we could catch it, so we could hit it so far.
Hmm.
And he's saying that the tic tac is looked like a tic tac underneath, looked like a submarine, and the water, they couldn't identify what the water was, and as soon as they saw them, this thing just went from hovering to takes off.
Yep.
And he's like, and he's just like, I've flown all the fucking airplanes. Now, to a certain extent, you're like, yeah, but maybe you just don't have the classification. Maybe they just never chose you to fly the higher technical airplanes. But then why would the military call you to say, hey, we have an unidentified, we need you to go check it out?
Hmm.
Like, there's an issue there. There's a conflict of interest because then they'd be like, guys, pull back your team. You know, I'm of this level, so I'm telling you to pull back your team. And then you shut it down and be like, okay, we're ignoring this area for now. You know,
It's a very short clip, but I just wanted to make sure that I'm looking at the right thing. This is the Tic Tac footage, right?
let's see. Yeah.
Like it just fucking scoots away like that. Like it just picks up and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna go this way now, and that's it.
And he
Peace.
explains, and that's just a small clip. He showed a bigger clip, and he explains the infrared. He explains, and that's what I was telling you. These guys know how to read their instruments. So for us, the untrained
Hmm.
are looking at that going, that could be a seagull for all we know. That could just be a seagull. And he's like, no, look, you have to understand how fast this is moving, how fast we're moving, what the infrared is telling you. This is what the information is saying. And you know, so unless the government or his training was lying to him about how his technology works on his and his tools work on his plane, and
Look,
I
look,
remember that
it's fucking spinning on itself right now.
there's that too.
Like if you take a look, like this dot here is pointing down, and if you look at the horizon, which these clouds here, it stays at the same level, and this fucking thing decides to turn.
Well, that's it. So he explains it on his. It's that Joe Rogan interview. I love it,
Yeah.
and he just blatantly tells him, and he says it too. He goes, "My family been trying to get me to believe in UFOs for years," and he's like, crap. He's like, they had kind of have me dead to rights because it is for him his first UFO, and he's like, not only is it his first UFO, it's he followed it, he tracked it, he has live footage of this thing.
Whoops, I had the wrong
Yeah.
feed up. I gotta get a stream deck to avoid those fucking transitions. But yeah,
It's all right. We're learning.
yeah.
So I mean, 2023 UFOs, common knowledge.
It should
Like, get with the program.
it shouldn't be much of a question anymore, and I'm surprised it's not a bigger topic of discussion. You
People
know,
don't want to talk about that stuff. They don't care. Told you, you gotta pay bills.
you gotta pay bills, and you gotta respect the ESG scores. So
Yeah, and you gotta make sure that your neighbors don't think you're crazy. But if we make it that you understand that it's common knowledge and be like, oh, UFOs, whatever. It's like, no, sorry. Like, we're now becoming old people. I get our parents to a certain point. They're like, okay, whatever. I don't care. You get to a certain age where you're just like, this is how I see life. This is how I am, and this is how much I want to continue learning. And I hope I
yeah,
never. It's understanding. It's understandable, right? It's like how we accept that, like the the older generation are allowed to be like, you know, uh, racist or have a certain
I was
viewpoint.
I was gonna say
Depending on
dicks, but yeah, yeah,
it's just funny. Like they grew up in a different time, and a lot of comedians make fun of that stuff. That, like, if you're a certain age, you're allowed to. I hate the gays. It's like, okay, he can't talk like that now. It's like, he's paid his dues, man. You haven't seen a war. Shut your fucking mouth. Like, they're stuck in that era, and it's like, it's not that they're stuck in that era. You have a certain people that like us. We're born in a certain thing. We were born in that analog age, analog to digital. So we know certain things. It's like, I think this is such a pivotal um, generation that we live in, and I'm still confused as to whether I'm Gen Z or Gen X or Gen Retardia. I don't know.
I believe
Uh,
I fall under millennials.
yeah, that's it. I realize I'm a millennial too, but it's like,
I used to crack fun about millennials all the time,
well, that's it.
and the shit that they do. And one day I Google it, I'm like, fuck, I'm a millennial. It's
But I think
like,
that's the Mandela effect, because I thought millennials were kids born in the millennium, which was the year 2000.
mm,
They grew up with an internet. Those kids never would not know a world without internet. We went through Nintendo on tube TVs to the fastest, right now, the fastest thing in the world
yeah,
as far as technology goes. To get from technology to my eyes to my brain,
yeah,
right? Without having to plug in. This is the fastest way of information.
hmm
So, you know, to digital thumb ID, crypto, whatever,
hmm
chat GPT, which is getting more and more ridiculous. AI, like, we're still in that, we're like, it's such a, I don't know, it's a crazy generation if you
but
think about it. There's
but
so much happening in our generation.
yeah, there is, and
I'm 42 years old.
we're gonna be a
How much?
pivotal
Am I?
generation.
42.
We're
81. I'm born in 81. How does that work? Am I 42? I'm turning 43?
You're born in '81.
Yeah. I think I'm
You're
42.
42. And
Fuck.
my math
42.
my math might be shite.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to say was that we are a pivotal generation, and we've experienced um, a lot of transitions, a lot of changes in terms of technology. Like, we went from fucking, like, the most entertaining thing that we had at some point was like you said, the Nintendo nano pets, shit like that. And
Mm-hmm.
we went from that to having, like you said, the world in our pockets now. Like,
Yeah.
anything I want is in here now. Um, it's nuts, and we're gonna keep developing that. And as we can see, AI is on the rise. And it's funny when you describe all these things, and you describe the things that, like, they're doing over at SpaceX and NASA and everybody, and all these other countries are planning their next missions to the moon. It's funny because when you think about it, we're kind of becoming our own caricature of aliens. You know what I mean? Like, we are these intelligent beings showing up on exploring space and doing rogue things. Like, what's not to say we might come
We're
across.
evolving. Exactly. We're evolving.
Yeah, like, what's not to say we're
I
gonna
mean,
come across a race of, I don't know, like, of slime that is sentient. And they're gonna see us on our two legs and our headsets speaking to someone who's like light years away and shit like that. You know what I mean? And they'll be like, "Oh my god, these are fucking gods." Like we could be our idea of aliens, but the idea of aliens that we have in our head, I don't believe in it at all. The same way I don't believe in our idea of God. Like we made it up. You know, like the Martians with the little ray guns and stuff like that, and the fish
Yeah,
bulb.
yeah. Well, I
Like
mean,
yeah, no.
we didn't touch up on a few things. Oh, touch up. I mean, there's so many things that we can talk about, so many rabbit holes we can go down.
Yeah,
Uh, different alien races. There's the avians. There's the Anunnaki. That's supposed to be Planet X. That was featured on Time Magazine. Planet X.
hold the fuck
Uh,
on. Alien races. You don't just drop that on me. What is this?
there's different type of alien races, and there's some of them that are here. Some of them are underground. Some of them live in California, apparently, in a specific place. And if you can almost like point them out, and you have to be careful. But um,
List of alleged extraterrestrial beings.
there's the Greys, who are
Yeah,
not supposed to be very friendly. Those are the classic ones that we know of. That you'll ever see the big eyes and whatever.
yeah. The Greys
Um,
are grease-skinned humanoids, usually 1 meter tall, hairless, large heads, black almond-shaped eyes.
yeah,
The
those guys
reptil.
are like fitty. Those guys are like fitty fitty. Most of them, from what I understand, those are the guys who are taking us and using us as experiments and type of thing. The people who have the really bad PTSD, they wake up and they remember being like abducted and stuff. Communion was a good movie about that, but I mean it's very long and
Is that a documentary or an actual like Hollywood production?
it was kind of like a reenactment of events.
Okay.
And
There's something called the
but it's very
rods and skyfish. Elongated visual artifacts appearing in the photo and recording sometimes claimed to be extraterrestrial beings, generally thought to be caused by the motion blur from flying insects. Jesus.
yeah, I've seen a lot of those videos. People are going hiking or people are near a cave and they capture this what looks like a fly or like a fairy ripping across their and they're like even if you try to slow it down, like you could always slow down a fly and be like, oh, it's just a bug, it's just a bug. It's like, well, no, I think there's like there's a history, there's a truth about fairies, there's a truth about you know Sasquatches and whatever and all that stuff. And but going back to the alien races, there's the Greys. Some of them work together. There's the lizard people.
Well,
Those are the bad ones.
I'm looking at something here. It's called reptilians and reptoids.
Yeah, reptilians. Those are the ones that live on the ground. Remember the movie V? Not V for Vendetta. The actual like it was V was a movie. It was almost like a 9-part series or some 10-part series back in the day in the 80s, and you had to see them through special glasses. It was kind of like They Live, but it was different.
Oh,
where where it was like a lizard species that was trying to take over the world, and there was a whole like war against them. And some of them were good, so some of them were trying to like help. And then we see some really good movies, some really fucking good movies, of sci-fi just in general, where it was Jupiter Ascending
okay.
with Mila Kunis and anyways the bad guy there, the portray. I mean they make it so Hollywood, they make it so like ridiculously over the top that you're like, okay, yeah, this is so super fake. But he has an army of like lizard people, and so I find that funny. Um,
There's something called cryptozoological animals, which is said to be a race of aliens of some sort that imitate a lot of things that we claim to be folklore, like the Loch Ness monster, the Mothman, yokai, Sasquatch.
mhm.
Like it's apparently it's like all that is combined into one race.
Oh, that's interesting.
Cryptozoological animals.
Cryptozoological.
Hopkinsville goblins.
There's the avian race, the bird people.
I don't
And
see
to
it.
me, it kind of makes sense. I mean, like our animals have to come from somewhere, some sort of DNA, some sort of people say, oh, it's just evolution, which I believe, and to a certain extent, we didn't evolve from apes. we certainly have the DNA of apes because apes have a certain DNA of us. But how I kind of understand it, which kind of makes sense to me, and I know this makes gonna make me sound fucking crazy, but there's a lot of people who agree with the sentiment. I mean, with the pyramids and all that, if you read the book, The 13th Planet, it kind of makes sense. It explains the whole Bible, honestly, and how this alien race had come down to mine our minerals, um, and they needed slaves. They didn't want to do the work, so they're like, let's just make some fucking clones, you know. And it would make for a great Hollywood movie, but like, and he's like, well, okay, whatever. So there's two brothers who are supposed to be taking care of this, and they're like, okay, well, let's clone, and what do we have here? Is some of the natural habitat. We have some freaking apes or whatever, and blah 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 blah. Okay, so let's clone some apes because they're pretty strong, and let's take some of us, of our DNA, and let's clone these apes. And they made the atoms, right? It's all in the um,
Like the atoms. When you say atoms, you mean like the structure of
they call them the
molecules.
atoms. They call these beings the atoms. They took a bit of ape and a bit of their own the Anunnaki. The alien race was called the Anunnaki, and they took a bit of themselves, a bit of the. This is a very condensed version of the story, and um, and this is actually from a Babylonian Babylonian scripture that was hard to decipher, and this one guy managed to decipher it. Okay, so which again take with a grain of salt because
Mm-hmm.
if it's only one guy who can decipher it, he can pretty much say whatever the fuck he wants.
Exactly.
But it's been, I think he's been double checked, and it's true. It's called the 13th Planet. Read it. It's good. And anyways, the long of the short of the story is that in these Babylonian scriptures, it explains the story, and two brothers, they're down here. They're like, whatever. We got to make some fucking clones of us, and let's hyper generate. Let's take some apes. Let's take some of us and make a slave race called the Atoms. And then so these atoms are there, whatever, and they're doing the work for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
For them, for the Anunnaki. And then what's happening is because they're here for years and whatever, it's not just a little time. Over time, the Anunnaki are finding the slaves attractive. So they start
Okay.
dating and sleeping with their own slaves and whatever. And there's one brother who's like, okay, well, I mean, it's the natural part of evolution. Like, like what'd you expect? We created a race of beings, and they're like us. They're not as intelligent as us because we can't have them overtaking us,
Mm-hmm.
and they're stronger than us, but they're not as smart as us, so we can still figure it out because they're stronger, so they can do our work, or they're built to do work, right? Atoms meaning the human race,
Mm-hmm.
and or the original, maybe like all of Africa type of deal, because that's where all like humanity and the first humans were ever documented or whatever. Africa is the birthplace of humanity,
Yeah.
so that would make sense. Most of the gold is there, and all these other tribes and villages and whatever. So the Anunnaki is there because they're from this X planet. So this X planet is here, and they, for however long, and they come down on Earth and start um, mining up resources. So anyway, so this is happening,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's about time for them to leave, and because they're like, okay, the planet's gonna get out of orbit or whatever the fuck. So these Anunnaki have to leave now and go back to their home planet. The ones that have made settlements there, and then there's all this talk of whatever, like we're gonna stay, and these people are now having babies. So now you're having hybrids, like lower generations of babies. So you have Anunnaki with these slaves. So there's kind of like sleeping with them half selves, and now they're making babies. And this one brother is like, I am not having any of this. Like this is you're all gonna fucking die. Like we're gonna create this flood, and we're gonna kill everybody. And so the one brother takes the leader of, um, or a bunch of people, a bunch of these atoms, and says, "Hey, hide behind this." And this is the weird part about it. Come to this rock that's kind of like you could see through one side of it, but you can't see through the other. I'm like, okay, so like a double-sided mirror.
Yeah.
But this is this guy's translation of what's going on. So he's like, this is what I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
out of this translation. Maybe it was something different. So basically, it was like a hiding room where they could hide, but no one can see them. So he has this confrontation with his brother, the Anunnaki here, the atoms here. That the brother's like, no, 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 I'm gonna make a big flood. They're all gonna drown, and we're leaving this fucking planet. Like we're just gonna flood the whole fucking area, and we're done. So what do these atoms do? They build an ark because they know the flood's coming,
Mm-hmm.
and so they leave. So the Anunnaki leave, but all these atoms are left behind, the ones that survive.
You see,
Now,
that's a very interesting take because that like
and this is all from a scripture of a Babylonian scripture. So it's like, if you can even expand that now and think, hey, there was African Anunnaki, there was Anunnaki in China, there was Anunnaki in whatever, and
Hmm.
the different types of Anunnaki. Because I mean, look at us, we're different races, right? So maybe they were had different races as well. So you're taking a bit of your DNA and saying, guys, if we do this, if we do that, these villagers talking with each other, look, if you want to make slaves and make some workers, this is what you got to do, and we have the technology to do it, blah blah blah. So now you get different races. You get
Hmm.
Indian, Chinese, Asian, whatever, Russian, Vikings, whatever the fuck. We all came from somewhere. And it wasn't just the Anunnaki that came to our planet. It was other planetary things. If you look up even the
Because
Grand Canyon and you look at like those type of structures, it's not erosion, it's mining. There was so much mining going on here. If you look up um, like these huge, beautiful caverns and how like the rocks are all cut out, it's like that's not natural stuff. Like you have archaeologists saying this is not a natural windstorm. Like this was dug out by some sort of thing. These doors, these hinges that they're finding in the fucking ground, huge
and
door hinges, like they were laser cut precision.
just for
They're
the
like,
record, like I'm not like as you're speaking, I'm looking up the stuff that you're talking about, right? Like the Anunnaki and
yeah, vet me, man. It's
all
all
this stuff.
good.
But and like, dude, it's crazy because I've never heard of any of this stuff, and there's
Really?
there's pages and pages and pages of shit, and like for instance, that like to me it's not a reliable source at all. But like for instance, like Wikipedia, they have full on developed articles about this stuff, like of the Anunnaki, also known as the ancient astronauts, um, etymology, worship, iconology, mythology.
The story doesn't even end there. Like just to wrap it up, the
Mhm.
story says that the planet X is coming because in the '70s they found it. They said there it is, it's coming, and it made front page of the Time magazine, Planet X. And that's another reason why people think the planets are warming up. This other planet coming into our solar system because this planet is supposed to like we're all here. Like, okay, got the sun, the Earth, and Mercury, and we're all like doing this, and this one planet is doing this. It's crazy. It takes like so many thousands of years just to come back in our time,
Mhm.
right? So that's why they come, they hang out, and then wherever they are, and now they're coming back. So a lot of people are saying this is the fourth dimension, the fourth whatever of coming. They're coming. They're gonna see their creation. They were like, "Holy shit, this is what happened in all those years." I'm sure they know back and forth communications. Blah blah blah. Who knows? I don't know if this is even true, but there is
But
that
you
planet
see, but you see,
coming.
like because of the biblical stuff that you mentioned earlier about the ark and whatnot, like would that be portrayed as the next coming of Jesus Christ and all that stuff? You know what I mean?
It could be. I mean, we're supposed to get a false god first, right? I mean, that's if you're following. I follow too many things, but if you're following, the next coming of Jesus and all
Hmm.
those stuff, it's supposed to be the first one is the false prophet, and I don't know. The false prophet could also be the government.
Yeah,
We're following in the false prophet, and then but someone's supposed to come and save us. And I think that's going to be more of the that's more on a spiritual side of this fourth dimension that's supposed to be coming, and a lot of people are going to be leaving this earth and evolving and moving forward in life and in their life and their journey, and other people are just going to stay back, and we're going to have that choice. But I think there's going to be a false prophet showing the wrong thing, and a lot of people are going to get scammed out of it because I mean, life's about choice. So at that moment, you have to make your choice.
yeah,
And but again, there's no right or wrong choice. I don't think it's just a matter of choice of what you're learning now on this life planet because we're eternal because we have souls.
yeah,
That's what it is. So I don't care what you think you know about anything. You'll redo this life if you have to, and if you're good, you'll come back as somebody more rich. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. I don't know if you'll come back as somebody. Maybe you'll come. I don't know.
that's the purpose, right? To come back more rich, to get the more
Yeah,
get more
to,
monopoly money. That's why
get
we're
more.
that's why we're going through all this. Oh man,
We're
I
going through all this to learn, and that's why after a while, you realize you put things into perspective. So it's great that the Anunnaki are coming. Good to be prepared. It'd be nice if someone came and just, okay, guys, it's enough. Like you're being stupid here. This is how it's supposed to be. This is how you can live a perfectly peaceful life. Love your neighbor. Jesus was correct, and the whole thing. You really smudged this freaking story so bad. And then let's go. But we can't because we got to do it on ourselves, and that's what So it sucks because we should all be living in peace and understanding that these aliens are here. But there's a lot of bad people there too, and aliens have their life journey as well. They're not any better or worse. They're just more evolved um, physically. So they're just a different race. Like humans, whatever. It's sad because I've come to accept the fact. Well, the fact. It's not a fact. It's an idea. It's a theory. Whatever. Who knows? We could all just be dust traveling in some cosmic space, and the dust is going to land, and we're all going to die, and we're just living on this ball of dust that's somewhere in an accountant's office. Like
Yeah,
in a third
dude,
dimension somewhere.
I think about that shit quite often. Like, are we just like like there was that famous scene in Men in Black, right? How our galaxy is
Yep.
just like a fucking marble that a bunch of aliens are playing with and shit like that.
And that's the thing, and I love and hate how they do it. How Hollywood just makes you think that, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, that theory, that's funny, whatever, yeah, because obviously Hollywood's making fun of it, so it's not true. It's like, don't dumb it down like that, man. That was such a profound moment where
Hmm.
they're like, they were just fighting for marbles, and I'm sure that happens. Men in Black, he wasn't wrong. Half the shit he said in there about like the meltdown of this, the Manhattan subway incident, the Jersey Fair, and Velcro. Velcro's like, who the fuck invented Velcro? Apparently that was an alien invention, something that we learned from the aliens, which I find funny. Technology, chips, da, da, da. Bob Lazar, um, reverse engineering stuff,
Yeah.
and they have tons of stuff that they just won't release because they're not going to make money. And this is what makes all sense. It's like it's crazy to think that there's an actual alien race controlling all of us to a certain extent. Because you're like, how can that be? I wake up, I'm free, I can do what I want, I live on this. It's like there's it, and
Uh,
that's where
Wake up and don't pay your taxes.
where you're at. What are you ready to accept?
Yeah.
What are you ready to accept? What are you like? It's still hard for me to chew on that. To be like, is there an actual lizard race living underground controlling us because they're so evil and so bad that need to feed off our negativity? And then you're like, well, if that were true, they'd have to do a couple things. And you look at it and you're like, okay, well, we had a bout where a lot of famous people were dying, and it made people sad. The Robin Williams dying, that was pretty sad.
Oh hell
Michael
yeah.
Jackson dying, that was pretty sad. Prince, it was sad. I mean, but people one after another, and it was just it was like a drain on the world because these people, like these artists and these professionals, had such a profound way of making us feel, and it's like all the good people are gone, almost. There's still a lot of good people out there, but like that was a good and like. So if you're thinking about that in a certain way, it's kind of like, well, yeah, I guess if I was an alien race, and I was controlling the world through devil worship, and I was fooling these humans to show them that black magic existed through devil worship, because it works both ways, white magic and black magic.
Yeah.
Harry Potter, a lot of truth in that. So if you want absolute power right away, really quick, you go dark magic. You'll get it, just like Star Wars. Path to the dark side is very easy because it's filled with hate and fear. But you'll only progress so much. It's the chakras now. Talking about the chakras, the colors. You'll only progress to the red chakra of the power chakra. You will always come back and repeat your life because you'll never fucking get there. You have to repeat it all over again until to get to the highest chakra, which is love, pure in its purity form. And there's all kinds of articles about this, and we're sidetracking about aliens, but
Mm.
it's like aliens are no different from us. They're playing in our same field. We're just stuck on this fucking ball, whether it's flat or round or beep beep blah blah blah. We're a fucking science experiment. We're not. We're an alien race. I kind of think that's an amazing thing to think because it's just so lucid to think that aliens billions of years ago came here, needed to mine. They're living. Who are we? We're just conscious because we decided to reincarnate into this life right now. So we all know this, but we're stuck in this fucking cage, in this ball, and we all have to get up, pay taxes, do all this shit, and we don't know any better. We're just churning. We'll do my fucking work and go to work and blah 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 blah. But we have art and love and this and that. We're trying to like express and change, and that's our lifeline. We came to this earth to learn that. So we decided to reincarnate into this ball. But there's other players. We're not just the only fucking reincarnation of people or souls into these bodies. Other souls reincarnate just in our circle of friends. We can reincarnate into dogs. We can reincarnate animals and insects and plants and trees of the evolution of the soul.
Yeah.
So the elements of life. That's how a fucking soul is created, my friend.
That's
You're
like Buddhism, right? Like reincarnation, that kind of stuff. And
exactly. And that is the purpose of life, is to reincarnate. There's no way that this mind and body and like okay, we're totally sidetracking it, but
No, no,
it's
no, it's fine. Like because I think we're entering like and this is I thought it would be a natural progression to go from UFOs to, correct me if I'm wrong, like some type of spirituality,
mhm.
you know?
But I
And
don't talk about UFOs. I don't talk about these alien races that's like this world that's super cool that we were, and it explains evolution. It's almost like it's so perfectly laid out. It's like, what's the missing link of evolution? Oh, we have that missing link. No, we kind of found it. No, we didn't fucking found fuck all. Aliens were here. They made us. They needed to make slaves. Look at the fucking pyramids. Look at this. Look at that. Stop hiding information. Use real science and just show the people what's really there. This is what happened, and that's it. There's so many fucking civilizations we find. We find dinosaur fucking um, stone carvings of dinosaurs and pictures on the walls of men and dinosaurs. So it's like clearly history got fucked up. At that point, they should have said, "Stop. Okay, hold on. Let's research this and realize that we all live together and blah 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 blah. And the timing is all wrong. And stop trying to hide the fucking truth of where we came from. Aliens created us. That's it. That's all. Stop thinking you're so egotistical that no, 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 God didn't do that. Fuck off.
but
You're reading the
again,
Bible
like the question that bothers me is that when I hear that is why, like what is there to gain by hiding that information?
because we have powers. We can be so much more, and we're being
Oh,
repressed,
okay.
right? It's like all those movies. It's like the fucking Fern Gully regurgitation. What was it called? Avatar.
Yeah.
Same shit. It's people being oppressed and whatever, and you can't do that. It puts a negative, and certain people win, and you can't because you have to, you know, bad things are happening. I mean, dude, we're happy with our lives. We have to be happy with what we have, and we have to be appreciative of what we have. But at the same time, it's like things could be a lot better. Things could be a lot better. They're
Absolutely.
they're 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 fooling us with all this stuff like games and I mean comic books are great because the art but we don't read them anymore. I mean I don't think people are watching movies now. And it's like comic book collections are awesome because you have to read and use your imagination. But then you can go outside and play. We don't do that anymore. We're losing touch of the earth in harmony, and that's what the government's doing right now. And it's just this transgender and this and that, and but it's all these. My kid wants to be a lion today; he can be a lion. It's like they're really breaking up the family and the spiritualness of it, and it fucking hurts me. And it's like fuck. It's like parents don't know what to do. They gotta work. They gotta pay bills. Okay, my kid wants to be a lion. Be a fucking lion.
And it's not just that. It's not just they have to work and they don't know what to do. It's also there's a certain stigma that comes with it, right? Like if you choose not to side with it, you get
But a
ostracized.
lot of people are not siding with it, and I think people are just afraid to like speak up because it's like again, it's that like I don't want to be that guy and worried about my friends. It's like stop worrying about what people think about you. Enough already.
Mm,
What happened to the men? Be a fucking man
yeah.
or woman, whatever. I'm not trying to be.
Like you said, we're really sidetracking here, but like that's one thing that I always believe, and this is a very bad take. It's a horrible one. But I think that we're in need of a proper war or something. Like we are in need of it,
We're in
unfortunately.
need of enlightenment. We're in need of and people are waking up. A lot of people saw the COVID-19. People that I never thought would, they'd be like, this is bullshit. This doesn't
Hmm.
make any sense. Enough of this. How
Yeah.
9/11 was for me, I think COVID was for a lot of other people as well. And not to go back on that. And
Hmm.
I think we covered a lot today. But like, yeah, people are waking up, and that's a spiritual awakening. And I think just like from how I understand it, the evil side is losing because they have to show more of what's going on. There's more of us than there is them, and that's why they're going out kicking and screaming, and that's why there's so much garbage happening so fast at once,
Hmm.
more than usual. Normally, it was like a slow progression. The '80s was a slow progression. The '90s was slow progression. You know, singers and dancers on TV slowly getting more and more naked, really pushing sex. I mean, Madonna was such a scandal. You look at Madonna now, like what? People were freaking out over that. But now look at it. Now you're half naked, showing your butt, like
Now
you
look
have.
at Nicki Minaj and all these people and all that
Well,
crap.
that's it. It's like it's breast implants, this, that, blah, 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 blah. And I mean that's been happening for a long time. The fashion industry itself,
That's
it's
something I would like to discuss with you one day. Is like the fashion industry and everything that's surrounded and shrouded by it. Like the fucking messaging behind what it is they're doing. You know, like you've heard of like all the things like Balenciaga, and you've heard of
Yeah.
like all that crap. Like that is something I definitely want to dive into and talk
Oh,
about.
the freaking Hunger Games! I saw it the other day. People were dressing up as cats and doing like
Oh yeah, I saw
prosthetics
that.
and whatever. And then
And they wouldn't talk.
they wouldn't talk. They were just meowing.
It's
And
fucking
it's like
stupid.
I'm like, wow, Hunger Games, man! Like you nailed it. Good for you. Good for you. But that's what they're doing, man. We're already in provinces. We're already in states.
Yeah,
It's hard to put up walls and be like, this state can't talk to this state, and you guys have more bread. Like they're trying, and we could end up there. But if we meditate properly, we won't. It depends on which plane you want to be on. I just threw a whole new world. Like we can give us dimensions, bro.
but
But whatever.
that's something we gotta explore too next time, man.
Yeah, no.
But like I said, like that one is gonna be something that it's gonna be a lot of you talking because I want to hear. I want to hear a lot. I'm gonna have a lot of questions for you.
Bro, I'm just gonna ramble like I normally do, and then you just pick my brain. And again, you're gonna have to do a lot of that research on your own, like just like tonight. Like
Mm.
I think tonight's the point of tonight's podcast, which I was trying to wrap up before, not wrap up, but just make a summary. Is
Yeah,
it's 2023. Love your neighbor. Understand that UFOs exist. Understand that um, there are healing powers at Stonehenge, seven wonders of the world, whatever you want to call them, and have an open mind. And there's certain,
one of the stones at Stonehenge actually
COVID's
called
over,
me.
2023. COVID's over, and aliens exist by 2023. We say, hey, like this is, and then the next episode will be what else is common knowledge for 2023 that people should understand that, you know, this
Yeah,
is the world we live in now, right? So
yeah,
forget about if your kid wants to be a lion for the day. Understand that your child should know that, hey, UFOs are real. Start thinking about that. And lizard people, maybe,
lizard people living in the earth,
in the earth.
within the hollow earth. Is it hollow? Oh,
I don't
okay.
think
We'll save it for next time.
we can say I don't think the earth is hollow. I think it's man, these are good topics, but I'm getting tired and I don't want to be a dick, but I kind of have to work tomorrow.
Don't worry about it, man.
Yeah,
We will talk about this on the next time, man. So,
yeah.
but again, thank you for Dave for joining the conversation, and
Of course, man.
it's always a good time. I I have a ton of fucking windows open right now. Anthropomorph deities, the Anunnaki people, the 13th Planet X itself is things to look at. I'm definitely going to be looking up a lot more
Prove me,
footage.
prove me wrong. Look up Time Magazine, Planet X,
I
1970.
tried to while you mentioned it, I couldn't find it.
Oh no,
No, I couldn't find it. 1970 what? I didn't use the date. What was the date?
in the 1970s. I thought it was 1970 on the nose. Oh, man, I gotta go through all my emails and shit. Like they probably scrubbed it. I don't know.
The Return of Planet X. No, that's not it. Nope, that's not it either.
The Return of Planet X. Yeah, it might not
No,
be Time Magazine
that's
USA.
not Time Magazine.
It might not be Time Magazine USA. Remember, Time Magazine during time of war was different and different. It was a different cover and different articles in different places of the world.
Correct.
That was a big problem. People didn't realize that. Time Magazine also has no credibility at this point, but
Well, you haven't seen the what's the name that movie with Ben Stiller, The Wonderful Life of Walter Mitty or something like that. He's a Time
no,
Magazine employee.
no, yeah,
Well, thanks again for joining me, brother. I really appreciate it,
yeah,
and I
no
look
problem,
forward to our
no
next
problem.
conversation.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
Come on.